What's going on, guys? Adam here from Easy Body Fitness, and today I just wanted to give a little quick short video on how to control your weight and why it's calories that matters at the end of the day. So first things first, okay, it's calories in versus calories out when it comes to your weight loss, okay? I'm gonna get into a few other topics here, but I just wanna make it loud and clear first and foremost. It's how many calories you put in versus how many calories you get rid of, or how many calories leave your body, right? Whether that's through eating less, whether that's through exercise, of doing cardio or lifting weights, and also through doing movement throughout the day. If you, let's say, have a hard labor job generally, or you're some sort of a tradesman, you know, you're going to be doing more labor intensive stuff, you're going to be moving more, versus somebody who's sitting at a desk all day, or somebody who's an Uber driver, not moving as much, right? They're going to burn more calories than somebody else will. But on top of all of that, it's your calories. It's what you eat, okay? At the end of the day, how many calories you're taking into your body that's going to cause you to lose weight or to essentially gain weight, right? Second thing, I know what some of you are thinking, some people still say to me all the time, and I read it all the time online, sugar should be cut out 100% because it's the sole proprietor of gaining fat. And the thing is, that's not true at all. It's actually not, it's kind of far from that. The thing is with sugar is that, like anything else, if you have too much of it, obviously is it bad for you? Yeah, because it can cause inflammation, right? If you have too much of anything, it can cause inflammation. Inflammation is a very broad term. But as for putting on more fat, just eating sugar alone, it doesn't work that way, because sugar has a calorie count like everything else. Sugar is a simple carbohydrate, okay? It's not a complex carbohydrate. It's used to build bigger chains of carbohydrates, and it has a calorie count just like anything else. So carbohydrate macro has 4 calories per 1 gram. Protein, it has 4 calories per 1 gram, and fat has 9 calories per 1 gram, being higher because it takes longer to digest, and it's generally it's a thicker substance, right? So the whole idea that sugar itself causes people just to gain weight it's not true. And then the other thing that people generally say to me is, yeah, but it releases insulin in the body, and insulin is the hormone to release, to create fat in the body and to store fat cells, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that is true, but anything that you eat is going to release insulin. Sugar releases it a little bit more, because what happens is when you eat carbs, glucose gets put into the bloodstream, and then that gets carried essentially to the pancreas. Pancreas releases insulin into the body, and then insulin is the hormone that's essentially used for various things in the body. One of them essentially for storing fat lipids. But the thing is, when you eat fats, okay, and also when you eat proteins, it's released as well. It's not released as much through proteins, but it's still released regardless. So there's a reason why everything has a calorie count, because at the end of the day, whatever you eat, it's how many of those calories that you eat, right? So sugar alone is not going to cause you to be fat. If you eat sugar, it's not like you're going to gain 2 times the amount of weight than what you normally would have had if you had another meal. It doesn't work that way. It comes down to the calories that you eat with the total amount of food, okay? Each macro has their own specific thing that they do for the body, many things that actually they do for the body, but they're all absorbed and broken down into the system through the measuring system of calories, and that's how we essentially measure if we gain weight or not. But sugar doesn't essentially cause you to gain more weight than anything else, okay? It just gets added into the pile, that's all it is. Now, is sugar bad for you if you have too much of it? It's like anything else. If you have too much of anything, like I was explaining not too long ago, it can cause inflammation in the body, right? If all you're doing is having junk food all day, or you're having just sugary crap, refined sugars, yeah, you're probably gonna feel some inflammation in your body somewhere, and your body's gonna let you know whether you're gonna have trouble, going to the bathroom, or doing a number 2, or you might get a skin rash. Like your body will decide what it's gonna do to you to let you know on how you're essentially gonna deal with the pain that it's going through, right? It's not always going to be the same for everybody. There's obviously certain symptoms that have been correlated with other individuals, but it might not always be the same. But that goes for anything else. If you have too much of alcohol, your body's going to let you know. You know what I mean? It's not going to be good for you. If you have too much orange juice, or if you have like acidic, too high in acidic fruits or vegetables, your body will let you know, and you'll start to get acid reflux, right? So inflammation is very broad. It can happen in a lot of different ways and through different means. But just because it causes inflammation, that doesn't mean that it's bad for you. And that's generally the fact of you having too much of it. Now, can somebody have some sort of an allergic reaction to it? Maybe because their body doesn't pertain well to certain sugars? Of course, 100%. But you shouldn't stay away from sugar just because of the fact that it could potentially cause inflammation. That could be anything in general. If you have too much of it, it doesn't mean it's bad for you. Just essentially make sure that you put a stop to it when you need to. Like I said, if you're having fast food all the time, and if you're having all kinds of McDonald's or pizza, or having a lot of just trans fatty stuff, your body's going to let you know about that too. It's going to let you know and say, hey, maybe you should cut down on this stuff because it's really starting to rewire my insides and I don't like it. Now, when it comes to specifics of somebody who has a condition like diabetes, yes, that's a different story. But it's not because sugar is bad. Okay, there's been a misconception where people think, oh, see, look what sugar does to people because of they have diabetes. They have diabetes, either type 1 diabetes because they've had it since their birth, or they have type 2 diabetes because of the ways they have been eating, right? It's not necessarily the refined sugars, it's the total amount of calories and crappy foods that you've been having. It's not sugar alone, okay? If somebody who eats healthy on a normal basis has sugar here and there, they're not going to all of a sudden turn out to get diabetes. You know how much sugar I have in a week? Okay, I eat healthy during the week. I have sugar when I want to, and then on the weekend, if I want, generally on Saturday, I'll have some candy or some chocolate or whatever, and I end up being okay. And it's because I take care of my body way more than what kind of crap that I give it. 90% of the week, I'm generally eating healthy. I'm working out. I'm exercising. When I want to have because I do have a really big sweet tooth. I love sweets, but when I want to have sweets, I have it on Saturday and I'm still fine. And it's because it's not essentially sugar that causes it. It's the total amount of calories that the individual is going to have over their lifetime and the crappy foods that they keep eating with sugar added into that, because like I said, if you're having too many sweets all the time too, it's going to cause that to happen. But it's the total amount of food and crap that they've been doing and the lack of exercise, cardio, just taking care of their body in general, going out for a walk, eating healthy foods, whatever, that has caused them to get type 2 diabetes. And when you get type 2 diabetes, the way the body is designed is that it doesn't use insulin the same way that it did before. And it just so happens, the way the body is designed, that insulin is taken, like I explained earlier, essentially from the pancreas, which essentially was released from blood glucose in the blood, which came from carbohydrates, which essentially is from sugars, because sugar is a carbohydrate, right? So that's why it's gotten a bad rap about it. But it doesn't mean that sugar is essentially bad on its own and that you should stay away from it. If you have diabetes, yes, that's a different story, but that's just because of the way that the body produces it. If the body used protein to do that, then protein would have been bad. If the body had used fat instead, then it would have been fat. Or if there was another macro that we didn't know about that it had used when you essentially became diabetic. So I don't want people to think that sugar is necessarily a bad thing and you should stay away from it 100%. Because when you do that, I guarantee you, A, it's hard to stay away from sugar 100% because it's in everything, okay? B, like I said, it's used as a calorie like anything else. You don't have to go crazy with it, but just have it here and there. And C, you're going to start to feel lethargic, you're going to feel sick, you're going to have lack of energy, and that's because you're not getting enough blood glucose in your system, which will essentially make you feel like you want to faint. Have you ever gone to the gym before and you feel like fainting or you feel low of energy? It's because your blood glucose levels are really low. Have a simple sugar, it'll spike up right away. Even if you have a complex, it's fine, it'll still work regardless. But it's because your blood glucose levels are too low and you need some carbs in you, and essentially you need some sugar in you, right? Sugar will boost it right back up. So it's the same thing in everyday life. If you don't get enough, you're going to start to feel low. So then if you're thinking, well, obviously like candy and all that stuff isn't good for you. Yes, refined stuff at the end of the day, it's not the best choice to have. And it's known to be, on the crappier side for your health. But you don't have to essentially get rid of sugar altogether. Like I said, it's not bad for you. You can't just think of sugar as itself being bad. It comes down to the fact of just realizing that it's another macro, that it's used in foods and put into your body and used as energy and stored as energy and then eventually brought down and stored as fat and used to help propel your body and get it moving in a whole conjunction worth of other things as well. And you're probably wondering, well, let's say I was going to reduce my calories, but in my actual amount of reduced calories that I'm doing, so let's say I'm having 2,000, but then I reduce it to 1,500, just to say. I wouldn't do that drastic of a drop anyways, but let's say just for the sake of bringing up an example, you drop it to 1,500. And now within those 1,500, you start to have some chocolates, and obviously some other sugary refined stuff. Will you still lose weight? Yeah, you will. You'll still lose the weight because you're reducing the calories. Now, would I put in that stuff? No. Would I essentially have it once or twice a week max? Yeah, sure, because you can splurge here and there. It doesn't mean you have to be completely healthy all the time. If you want to be completely healthy all the time, good on you. You can completely do that. That's fine. But like I said, I have it once a week because I enjoy it. The rest of the week, I keep myself healthy because I like feeling the way that I do and I like looking the way that I do. And in order for me to do that, I know I have to keep continuing what I'm doing now. Otherwise, if I started to go over that, I would start to put on more body fat, right? It comes down to what you want, right? So at the end of the day, it comes down, again, to your total calories of what it is. But sugar is not the total enemy here. It's not the one thing that you should be completely staying away from because it's completely bad for you. No, you can still have it. If you're somebody who's not overweight, okay, your health complications aren't bad. If you're essentially, working out and you're keeping healthy, or even if you're not working out or you work out every now and then and you're not really big into it, you can still have sugar every now and then. You don't need to essentially fear it. It's not bad for you, right? Just the whole idea here to know is that it comes to your total calorie consumption of your weight. Calories in, calories out versus your weight loss, okay? Now, another thing that people say to me is, yeah, but I've seen people that go on the keto diet and, they've done well and they've gotten rid of carbs because they said carbs are the things that cause you fat. The reason why the keto diet works is because essentially you're lowering your calories. That's all it is. You can lose. I've had plenty of clients that have lost weight while still eating carbohydrates, while still eating foods that they enjoy, right? You can do that. Again, carbs aren't the enemy. And I don't typically, although I've known people that have lost weight on keto because, again, they're reducing the calories. It's just the calories at the total end of the day. That's the reason why it still works. But I wouldn't suggest that to somebody who's just starting to work out because they're generally probably going to crash and they're going to start eating all sorts of foods again because ghrelin is going to spike, which is your hunger hormone, and it's just going to cause you to eat everything in sight, right? Because if you automatically stop having carbs and you sugar crash, what's going to happen? You're going to want to go have some, right? So I wouldn't necessarily tell somebody in the beginning to start doing keto. I would get them used to eating nutritionally first, work out, keep going with that regimen, and then from a certain point on, I would get them, if they wanted to, I would put together a keto plan for them, or I would tell them, yeah, for sure, give it a shot. You might like it. I know a few people now that still stay on it religiously because they enjoy it. But with any diet, even keto aside, it comes down to your total calories. Again, it's the same umbrella. It's your total food that you take in versus the total food that versus the calories that you expend. That's what it comes down to, okay? There's just the way the body works. It's the law of thermodynamics. It's, this has been around forever. I don't know why there are some people that try and reinvent the wheel when it comes to understanding how it works, but that's how it works. And everything else is under that umbrella, essentially what we covered or what I covered in this video with you, and even more, okay? There's other more complex things that get into it, which I'm not gonna get into because it'll be too much of a video. All right, guys, let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know down below in the comments if this makes sense to you, or if you have any other questions about it. I'll be more than happy to answer it for you, and I'll see you guys in the next video.